So number one reason that people attend all types of industry conferences, whether it's an industry event, an association event, or a company's users conference or other type of event where they bring people together, the main reason that people say across industry lines that they attend is networking opportunities. I mean, they come to learn and they want that experience, but really people are hoping when they come to some sort of a live gathering that they're going to make connections with people and really have that type of experience where maybe they'll meet a future employer, maybe the next employee that they have to hire, maybe they'll meet some people who they can do business with, maybe that they can sell to or buy from. And yet, when people show up at events, all types of events, even though when they fill out their surveys online or on paper, they say they're there to meet the other people, everybody kind of sucks at it once they get there. They sit with their coworkers. They oftentimes spend all their breaks, like we were talking about during the opening tonight, spend all their breaks kind of on their iPhones and other technology. And when it comes time to actually go and have the breaks, they don't know how to start a conversation, so they don't. And oftentimes they'll report back afterwards saying, there was a lot of good information, but I didn't really feel like I really connected with people. And the audience was so full of great people who I could connect with. So they'll give feedback to the meeting planner. The meeting planner will stretch those networking breaks to like 45 minutes. And then people look at the schedule and go, wow, 45-minute break, I can go back to my hotel room and make conference calls. And so it's an ongoing thing that people want that community. They want that culture of networking. But often people don't know how to do this. And sometimes it's because you have a crowd of introverts. So I'll talk to a lot of people in tech companies and I'll say, well, our people really care about getting the data. They're not comfortable with that networking stuff. And they don't like to play the games. You guys been to some of these conferences where they do different types of games, like they pass around a roll of toilet paper and make everybody pull off sheets, and then afterwards they go, oh, if you pulled off 3 sheets, you have to tell people your 3 biggest fears. If you pulled off 1 sheet, you tell 1 biggest fear, and there's always that person who takes like half the roll. And people don't want to play hokey games. People don't want to share their most intimate fears. And so lots of times they don't even like things where they have to go around to every vendor and get their card signed. And so they don't like it, so they'll do it, but it doesn't leave them with sort of that natural feeling. And so one of the problems is they're all saying they want to do it, and they stink at it. What can you do to make your event really have sort of that connection so that it's not just about the data and the spreadsheet. It's about connecting with other people. So today I decided I wasn't going to put together a big PowerPoint. I didn't want to have, sort of a big presentation. I speak a lot at large conferences where I have to do a big presentation. What I really wanted to do today with all of you and to the audience who might be joining us here on Google+, what I wanted to do is really have more of a conversation about the things that can be done to make an event, an industry, happen. Last year, I spoke at 58 different events. Now, some of those were small, little intimate events with maybe 25 or 50 people. One of the events was over 3,000 people that I spoke to, and sort of everything in between. And so I've seen a lot of stuff happen at events, and I've seen a lot of events really sort of fall flat. So today, I just want to talk about how many people your company has an industry event, or somehow you're involved with an association that plans an event. So pretty much everybody who came to this session gets that would make sense. So what is the biggest challenge, what is the biggest challenge that you have with an event, trying to get more out of it, get people really excited about being here? Somebody?
Making sure that there's enough sense besides the topic that the people are having, using their time wisely, so getting an ROI on their time.
So the question that was said was, making sure that people get an ROI on their time. And that's true, because lots of times I'll look at these schedules and they've compiled everything that's typed together because they have so much information that they want to share. And like throughout the day, they'll have 45-minute sessions with 5 minutes in between and really no breaks. I was talking to one client and they had scheduled, they had 600, 400 people at their conference. They had scheduled 20-minute breaks. And everything was taking place in the same room. I'm like, you can't get 400 people out of the room, anywhere near the coffee and back in the room in 20 minutes. And what it does is it rushes everybody, and then they don't feel like they can use their time really well. Anybody else? Yes, sir?
Yeah, I think everybody has questions, but not a lot of people actually ask.
God, what a great thing. He says a lot of times, when it comes to the Q&A, and a lot of events, he said, you have people who really, they want to ask questions, but when you ask, hey, will somebody ask a question, so everybody sits on their hand. So that's a huge part of creating that culture where everybody feels safe that they can do that. And yes, sir?
encouraging people to talk in the halls. I may not be comfortable speaking up in the group, but to talk one-on-one, that's less threatening.
Right, and so this gentleman said having people in the hallways really engage with the people who are there having those conversations. And I'm a real big believer that when I talk to people about what was the best part of going to whatever the conference is, something as large as South by Southwest or something as small as maybe 100 people at a users conference, when I ask people what's the best part of the conference, people will say the people who I met, the people who I talked to in the hallways. Those hallway conversations really become a really important part. And yet when we're designing the event, as the event organizer or the marketing team who is behind creating the event, one of the problems is we don't actually put learning objectives around the breaks, the happy hours, the meals, like we do when selecting the speakers who come in. So that's really important. I think the day of the cookie cutter conference, is really behind us. People are tired of going to conferences. I heard the other day, and I don't have the stats on this, but I heard the other day that there are 20,000 business meetings held every weekday in the United States. Now that doesn't include meetings inside your company. We all have sort of death by meeting going on inside a lot of our companies. But these are formal meetings in conference halls and hotels and in large, other types of facilities. 20,000 meetings per day are going on. And yet when we think about a lot of these meetings that we've all attended, kind of throughout the history of our career, they're sort of cookie cutter. You have a hotel ballroom, you have networking and registration, you have a keynote speaker, then there's a little break for some coffee and some Danish, and then people go to a breakout. They usually have 3 tracks to choose from, and they go to another breakout, and then they come to lunch where they're served, rubber chicken, and then they go to a couple more, and then they have a closing keynote in the day, and then they have a happy hour at the end of the day. And people tell me they're getting tired of that. And so in the events business, there's a lot of discussion about how do we change events? The reality is you can't change them that much. There's still certain things that we have to do. So the whole idea of an unconference like we're at today, this is great, right? How many people have been to Product Camp many times? The unconference is really popular, especially among technology type people, because it's not the same old thing. It's not somebody picking a speaker a year in advance who's going to give the keynote when there might be something more topical going on today. People like that freedom. But your company probably isn't going to feel real comfortable saying, hey, we're going to spend $100,000 or $200,000 to bring our users in, and we have no idea who's going to speak, or whether or not they're even capable to speak. We're just going to let the audience vote. Your CEO might leave from the building. That's what you're telling them to do. So the cookie cutter is gone. What you have to do is find ways to make it different while you're still utilizing that hotel ballroom, and you're still having the parameters that go around it. So, and online can't replace it. A lot of people thought 4 or 5 years ago the meeting industry was going to be dead because everybody was going to go to online. And I'm not dissing those of you who are watching on Google+. We love Google+, and we love you for being here watching us. However, there's a little bit of a difference between sitting at your computer and watching something and being live in the room, being able to ask questions and participate, and also having those hallway conversations. Yes, sir?
I ran a conference last year. 24 consecutive hours of speakers across the globe. And what I found interesting was that not only did I get traffic the day of the event, but I got a ton of traffic after the event, people downloading presentations and stuff like that. And I understand the networking value here, but I'm also seeing that there's a lot of value in having access to a conference in a year after the event.
Without question. And so what he said, if you couldn't hear him, is he ran a conference last year where there were speakers for 24 hours, constantly being streamed online, but people went back and watched it afterwards. And that really leads me to what I was going to talk about TED. Has anybody been to either the TED conference or a TEDx conference? So the TED conference has captured sort of the best of both worlds. They have the live conference, and then they put everything online. Some they stream live, some are on video, and it really creates the hybrid. And what I was saying about the meetings industry, really looking for what can we do, the idea of a hybrid has become really popular so that you can serve those people who maybe can't afford to, or don't want to, or for schedule conflicts can't be there, but so they can access it. Also the idea of using what we're doing with Google Plus to be able to stream something out there so it can be watched, it can be recorded and accessed later. That is a really, really important thing. But really, people thought the meetings industry was going to go away, and there are thoughts out there that 2012 could be the largest year ever for the meetings business. Meetings aren't going away. We're getting more meetings. And even with the recession in the last 2 years, all the negative attention in 2009 and 2008, sort of some of the big flamboyant meetings got, there's still meetings going on. South by Southwest has grown by some 300% since 2007 and 2008 in the attendees going to Interactive. So all the ideas that the live meeting is dying are being disproven by everybody, but it's being disproven in the fact where there's something informationally important and where there's a true experience being created. And so you want to create sort of that industry happening in your event. John?
So Tom, you talked about TED.
Yes.
And TED is, of course, very, very powerful because it takes a big presentation, let's say 60 minutes, 90 minutes in a certain way, squeezes it down to 18 minutes. More and more conferences are trying to pull off this TED, which is great, but I'll tell you the toughest part about doing a TED show is not attending it, because it's great, presenting it, being chosen to present something like that. 20 minutes is not enough time, really, to be able to tell the correct story. So kind of talk a little bit about what you've seen and about how someone might be able to best use 20 minutes at a conference, knowing that it is the trendy thing to do now.
So John, in fact, brought up the question that TED has become so popular around the country that now a lot of conferences want to copy TED. But one of the things I try to tell everybody is when you're planning your event has to be unique. When people come back and say, we're going to be just like TED, no, you're not. You're going to be copying TED, and you're going to come up somewhere very weak from that. And the other thing is, when I ask people, well, how are you going to be just like TED? They say, we're making everybody do 18-minute talks. Okay? And they go, well, yeah, that's what we're doing. We're making everybody do 18-minute talks. Well, as a professional speaker, I will tell you, sometimes people will say, well, we don't want you for your 90-minute presentation. Could you do a 20-minute talk? And I say, yes. They say, well, is that cheaper? No, it actually should be more expensive. Because to John's point, it is harder to create a 20-minute talk. So if you're going to be using people who are not professionally trained at planning speeches, you go, we're going to be just like TED, we're going to give them 18 minutes. Your speeches might get worse, not better. But I recently was at a conference, I saw them do something great because they wanted to do something unique. But they knew that 18 minutes was not enough with the thought leaders they had presenting as their keynotes to do this. So what they did is instead of having one keynote for an hour, they had 3 keynoters at 20 minutes each, doing a TED-style, quippy, single information, but very well rehearsed and thought out. These were people who were good speakers and were trained. But then, later that day, in the breakout tracks, an entire breakout track for an hour, I think they were hour and 15-minute breakouts, each one of the keynoters did a more in-depth thing about their area of expertise. So it wasn't just the 18-minute talk. If you watched those 3 keynoters doing their quick talks and you were impressed, you could choose one or all of them to go and dive deeper with them. And I thought that was a great answer to that. Yes, Prashant.
I think when you look at TED, I think the key lesson is really less about the 18 minutes and more about the experience that as a user and attendee, they make you go through.
Right.
I think TED is, who did it last week versus Austin, I mean, they probably maximized the way you can do it, and I'm not even going to type that. But even in a user conference, I mean, the problem is that people don't start thinking from the user, they start thinking from, what do I want to share from my which products do I want to display? What do I want to sell them? Whereas the idea should be the other way around, is to look at, okay, how do I want my customers or my users and my prospects to come through that experience, and what do I want them to live with? And we've gone through that process in the past, and we wanted them to live thinking, wow, this is a great company we want to partner with. If you start with that in mind, or that end in mind, I think it changed the way you actually start to build a conference and what you're trying to do.
And Bertrand brings up the question about making sure that if you're having shorter speakers, especially the users conference where you're trying to either sell or promote your new product, that you're not just being sort of a sage from the stage who is selling your product. You want to make sure that everybody and what they're doing is geared towards those audience members. It's not about me selling to you. It's about you gaining as much information and having that experience. And he was using TED as an example last week for those of us in Austin with the Austin TEDx conference. And they had 14 speakers. And the interesting thing is, not all of them were great. They all were fine, and they were all very well prepared. But throughout the week, as I have talked to different people, the same 2 or 3 speakers is who everybody remembers, but everybody remembers the experience of the day, the unique way that they created the luncheon environment so that people could connect. It was like something I've never seen in hundreds of events. I've never seen anyone do a unique process like they did at lunch. So it's finding that thing that people will remember because they've experienced it. More so than just saying, we're going to be like TED. I had one event planner tell me, we're going to be the South by Southwest of the North. Well, what is the it's like, what's the that's right, there's a restaurant north by Northwest. But the fact is that you can't just say we're gonna steal someone else's idea to become unique with what we're doing for our conference. Now last year I attended and spoke at several events. There were a couple that stood out. I'm going to use Bertrand as an example. His former employer did a conference where they were very focused on what can our people experience while they're here. So they didn't have very many of their own employees present. They had their customers present, but they didn't have their customers come present about how do you use our product. That was a side note, but it really was an educational piece for people about how they could maximize their job in that field. And because from the beginning, and I was involved from the beginning because they hired me, but because I watched it, everything they talked about was about, never was it about how do we look good. It was about how do we make it an experience for our people. And when that's what's built into your event, you will find a much better quality event than when you're really trying to figure out how can we sell to them, and how can we make sure that our president gets up and gives a very compelling speech. Some companies have the ability to do that. Theirs did. A lot of companies, your president shouldn't be your keynote speaker. That doesn't create the right experience if someone is just up there, giving the board presentation. I've been to so many events where the opening talk is from some executive, and all he's doing is giving their board talk to a bunch of users who don't really care. Anybody ever have that at their company? All the hands in the room just went up for those of you. So it's often those intangible things that you do that really make a difference. In the last session I was in, C.K. Kumar was talking about lessons from Star Wars, and his last example from Star Wars was talking about when Luke tried to raise the X-Wing fighter out of the swamp and he couldn't do it. And he said, when Yoda did it, he said, I can't believe it. And Yoda's answer, was, I didn't write it down, so I can't say what Yoda's answer was. Yoda's answer was, it's because you don't believe is why you fail. And so that's one of the things is you have to believe going into this conference that you can break the cookie cutter while still staying at a hotel and still, you have to serve them meals and you have to have happy hour and these things. If you really believe that you can do something that makes that experience just that much better, you will have that sort of So somebody had a hand up? Anyway, yes, ma'am.
I just do have a question about that. So, let's say you don't want it to be your CEO doing that lovely keynote speech, but you look at all the different potential speakers you could get. Finding that right person, right? Everyone's got a video of what they've done, etc. But you don't want it to be their cookie cutter. It's 30 minutes, 60-minute talk, you've done their work. How do you work with the speaker to actually get them to truly tailor their material so that it's relevant for your audience? Most of them say, no, this is my data. Get it, take it or leave it.
Right. Well, her question was about speakers, and that really leads into a great sort of next segue. And that is your speaker, both your keynote, who starts the thing off, but really everybody who speaks at your conference, they set the tone for the experience that everybody has. So when you go to breakouts today at this conference, the speakers who you see will really set the tone for your experience today. So some of you in the room might like what I did here. Others of you might not. That will infect the entire feeling that you have about this entire day. So the speakers are extremely important. And her question was, sometimes when you go to hire a speaker, find somebody, they have sort of a cookie cutter speech that they give everywhere. And a lot of the celebrities, who I've seen several times at some of these large user conferences and large things, after you've seen them twice, because they're making sort of that round of all their companies, their performance sort of starts to get canned. I won't say who, but there's one very famous former politician who has one joke that's really funny, but he's been using it for 8 years. And he's just changed the name of his successor as different people have taken his role. And if you've seen him once, the joke isn't funny anymore. And it really is just sort of something that gets phoned in. So you need to work with the speakers. You need to find somebody. Don't be so worried that you're going to have a famous name that's a draw. I think those days are past. I don't think celebrities, either in your industry or nationally, are the draw that they might have been in the 80s and the 90s. So you want to find somebody who can customize to work with what your needs are, and there's a lot of them out there. I think there are more speakers out there who are willing to work with you than you can imagine. But lots of times when people want you to customize it, they just say, we want you to do it in 18 minutes. They don't give you any direction of what that 18 minutes is. They don't give you anything else. So one organization here in Austin hired a New York Times bestseller to come in. He was a very expensive gentleman. They signed the contract, and after his speech, they were going to have a 2-hour reception. He was the centerpiece of it. His contract said he would not stay and mingle with the people. And they asked him, well, would you? And he said no. And it was already a set deal. It was a couple months out. They convinced him to stay for like 20 minutes. And I watched 19 minutes, he packed up and he was out the door. So you want to make sure going in, you want to include the speakers as part of creating that culture and creating that brand, that you work with them from the earliest stage. And I think if you're working with somebody who speaks a lot, they've been to a lot of conferences. You know, they've been to dozens, if not 100 a year, either as an attendee or as a speaker. Ask them for ideas. Get the speaker involved early in your planning and ask them what they've seen their other clients do. And then they feel like they're more part of the team rather than just a vendor who's getting a check and comes in, gives a speech, says thank you, and is off to the airport immediately after that. So I think the tangible things that you do early on really, really have an impact on that ROI. Because people want to have that ROI from being at the conference. It's so important that everybody who attends can show their boss, here's what I learned, here's what I did. And a lot of that comes back to those learning objectives. And so as organizers, we fall into the whole idea that, well, I have to have a lot of that. I talked to one person who called me, and she said, would you identify yourself as a motivational speaker? And I don't lead with that, but my answer was, yes, okay. It was a trick question. She said, then we cannot work with you. My CEO has mandated we will have no motivational speakers. And I said, why? And she goes, it's all about content. We just want people who have all this content. Well, I believed I had content. But I said, why nobody who's a motivational speaker? And she said, he just doesn't believe in motivation. And I asked her, everybody wants to work for that company. Yeah. So I'll ask you what I asked her. What's the opposite of motivation?
Isolation.
Isolation, that's a good one. She didn't come up with that. She and I together came up with, sucks the energy out of the room. How many of you have been to a conference where a speaker has sucked the energy out of the room? That impacts all aspects of your conference. Even if your opening keynote was great, if your closing keynote is awful, that's what people leave with. The opposite is true. If someone starts it, poor, you have to work very hard the entire 2-3 days to pull yourself out of it. So you have to really think that speakers set the tone, and the best speakers are the ones who will work with you to find out what that tone is for your needs, not their needs. And you got to crush the clicks. You've been to conferences where everybody kind of hangs in those little bundles of just the people they already know. Do you know who really sets the tone for that? It's your users conference. It's your company. Is your board having a private board dinner the night before where they're not inviting any customers? People know about that. Guess what happens at the bar? People sit around and talk, oh, we heard the board had a private dinner. People come back afterwards saying, wow, it was great. I went to this VIP invite only for big customers that they invited me to. How do I feel if I'm a medium-sized customer or a small-sized customer? Oftentimes, if there's clicks going on in a conference, those clicks are set up by the company and your employees. When they show up the next day, they stand around together. They don't know how to do it. So having a training session for all of your employees who will be on site is really important, because anyone who works for your company is a host of this event. Now think if you were having people into your house. Would you and your wife stand in the kitchen the entire time, or you and your husband stand in the kitchen the entire time and never ask people how they were doing, let them go get their own drinks, maybe start the barbecue and just give them some raw meat? That's not the way we host parties in our home. The same thing is true for your organization. Your host, everybody has to realize they need to participate, they need to be there, and the higher up the food chain, the more important it is that they are at things like the happy hour, the donut and coffee break. Because when the CEO finishes his speech, or any speaker finishes their talk, even if they're not a celebrity, they are a celebrity for the next hour and a half to your audience. And so if they immediately say, oh, I've got to take a conference call or I have to go, and they're not participating, that shuts it off and creates clicks. You had a question?
I actually want to share two things
Please
that
share.
conference that were awesome. One is, so sometimes it's hard to get your developers to interact with customers, but customers drool about that stuff. We actually created contests and asked the developers to go get feedback from customers, and specifically had them have a goal and to go meet X number of customers and do these things. And about 50% of them, there's the half that never will. But there's a half that actually after the first one, they were less nervous. They had a blast. Customers tweeted about loving that. And then we actually created photo booths for specifically executive photos with customers across the board. It's a little thing, but just that handshake, that love.
People like it. People like it. You couldn't hear online, she was sharing the fact that they've actually created ways for their customers to interact with their employees and their executives. Another event that I saw this year was a company out of San Diego called ServiceNow.com. They might now just be ServiceNow, but they had 1,000 people. Little side story, they were expecting, I think, 500, so they had a hotel with a ballroom that held 500. As RSVPs came in, it got up to over 1,000 people. They had to pitch a giant tent in the parking lot of this hotel in San Diego that would sit 1,000 people. Now, it was expensive to get a football-sized, tent into the thing, not necessarily last minute, but within a month when they saw what was happening. But shutting it down was not creating a customer experience. Moving hotels in San Diego in May was impossible because everybody would have been booked. So they took the parking lot, they made 1,000-person thing. It actually became the experience because it was this giant tent, and you wouldn't expect in the middle of May there was a rainstorm. And so the tent was shaking, never fell out. But it was all part of the experience to have all of that going on outside in the parking lot. People loved it. But what they did is we created a session with all people. They had tables set up in rounds, and every employee, I think they had 1,000 people, so they had 100 tables of 10, and they had an employee at every table, and they did roundtable discussion where a question was posted every 12 minutes during the hour, where it was something to do with what are you finding in the industry. It wasn't what are you finding about a company, it wasn't we're here to sell you, it was industry-wide problems that their customers face. And they did a training session online, webinar, for all 100 employees beforehand, where they got them up to speed on how to lead a conversation, how to make sure nobody at the table would run away and dominate, how to make sure nobody was there pitching their own wares. And the people loved it because they got to do it. They also were able to gain information because 100 employees sat there and had conversations about it. What's your big pain point? And theirs was an industry happening without question. So you need to take effort to put everybody out there so that they're interacting with people. And then, yes.
You've talked mostly about what's going on at the conference. So what about pre-conference and post-conference? How much can that lead to a great conference?
So his question was, what about pre-conference and post-conference? How does that become part of the experience? We're so fortunate because we now live in this day where we can be online. We can have videos up there. One of the things a lot of customers are doing is they're asking all their speakers to create 3 to 5 minute videos about what am I going to talk about in my breakout. They're creating a YouTube channel for the conference where you can go and look at all the speakers saying, hey, I'm going to come in and I'm going to talk about this product line, or I'm going to talk about whatever it is. And so creating those upfront communities, constantly being communicating with the people who will come. A lot of people will use sort of community building, sort of social media type internal sites so that people can know who's going to be there in advance, so they can decide, wow, I want to meet Brian. Brian is somebody I should seek out while I'm there. I can actually connect to him online in advance and say, Brian, why don't we have coffee on the second morning of the conference? So a lot of people will do that. Afterwards, I think what the gentleman in the back was talking about recording your sessions and having them available online is a great way to keep that going afterwards. Because if something is said at the event that someone wants to share with their entire team, I can go back and read my notes and say, I heard John say these points. Or I can send the link and say, here's a 30-minute presentation that I saw that really impacts how you do your job. Yes?
But I think even more than that, what marketers in some studies that they can use, especially the enterprise software world, that's the best way to use the user conference to build content marketing that you can reuse other than time. Because the one thing is like to get any big companies to do a webinar, is pretty much like zero. Whereas if you get them to do a user conference, you go through their process, you can get them recorded, you ask them after the fact, do you want to be recorded, or are you okay for us to republish that? And 9 times out of 10, they will say yes. You can reuse that in different things. I mean, we've done that last year, and we've reused the content like for another 6 months. I mean, it's just not a one-time event. It has to be thought through as, how can I turn this thing into something great in the instant, but also for the future? And to me, that's the key thing.
So his comment was, if you record these sessions, and you have to get permission from the presenters so that you can record them and use them, they become part of your marketing going forward to people who weren't necessarily at the conference. But another thing is if you create a thing where people are having fun, where they're learning, where it's exciting, where it's engaging, and these people are of the tech side of the world where maybe they are using Twitter, all of a sudden that goes viral. One event, your event, really throughout the world of, that area of business, people were saying, wow, I should have gone. People who weren't customers were wishing that they were at that thing because it became sort of the industry gathering point. And people were commenting that they weren't even there and they were following the Twitter stream. That carries on afterwards because people will want to go back and see those videos if the people who are there are really excited and sharing it. Yes.
You mentioned it was so important to have speakers and set the tone and so forth. But everybody aims to get speakers that are engaging, that are going to make the culture and make the conference happen. Why is it so hard for them?
So his comment in the back was, everybody says they want to get speakers who are engaging, who can get people going, but you go to these conferences and they're not. Why is it so hard to find speakers? My belief is that a lot of people who organize conferences who aren't professional conference organizers think the speakers are a slot they have to fill. So there's a keynote, there's 3 tracks of breakouts, there's a closing panel, next morning there's a keynote, and basically it's like we need to plug people in. So the thing to remember when you're looking at who's going to speak, whether it's a breakout, whether it's a panel, or whether it is your keynote, I have a mantra, and that is just because someone is smart or they have done something cool, it does not mean they belong on your stage. Now, that doesn't mean they can't be coached. I worked with an association that works in solar power, and they were having 6 of their execs present in 20-minute talks. And their execs were not professional speakers. In fact, they were very technical people. They were really worried that 6 back-to-back 20-minute dry speeches where people were reading their PowerPoints off the slide, they were afraid that was going to ruin the tone. So they actually held speakers training for their own people. They didn't do it for their outside speakers, but they did it for their morning opening couple of hours, and it really worked. They talked to the people about what is your one point? How do you tell a story? What is your challenge at the end? And everybody, nobody was Tony Robbins, but everybody was an engaging speaker because they were all focused on the audience and they all knew exactly what it was they were going to say. They were very well rehearsed. So I think a lot of the problem is people have to be very serious about vetting speakers and not just saying, ooh, this person wrote a book, let's get them. It's who in our company has seen somebody at an event that you've been at who really rocked your world, because we were talking about TEDx Austin. 2 or 3 stand out to everyone I talk to. So those 2 or 3 would be the people you would say, hey, let's get them. Yes, in the back.
I think the real challenge is that people stay in their comfort zone. They know somebody, or it's a strategically important customer or a strategically important consultant, and they don't really force themselves to go out. There's value in chaos. There's value in picking and saying, I go back to Moneyball.
Yep.
Often really great book. You say, I need a slot with somebody who can talk about this, and you force yourself to find a new person, a new context, and be there. And the overall effect of 6 speakers, 10 speakers, or a lot more, but the randomness and the lack of a very tight flow is actually what made the event worthwhile. But again, forcing people to get out of their comfort zone and talk to somebody new.
What was your first name, sir?
Earl.
I think Earl had a great point. He said, getting out of your comfort zone. Very often, the first thing we do is we look at, well, who spoke at another industry event in our same industry, or who is, the leading consultant in our industry. Let's get them to speak. So they're not really thinking through what is different. So his comment was finding a topic that you really want covered, and then go out and seek somebody who is an experienced and educated person. So my thing about, just because they're smart or they've done something cool doesn't mean they don't belong on stage. There's a tug-of-war that goes on when you talk about those speakers. And people say, is it content versus style? It's like the person said, we don't want you because you're motivational. All speakers should be motivational. All speakers should have some sort of style. Now, it's not going to relate with everybody. Some people will watch me and say, oh, he's a little too animated. I don't like that. That's okay. Other people will look and say, wow, that kept me up, that was good energy. So you don't want them all to be the same energy level, you don't want them to all be the same style. But if they only have content, people are going to want to stick needles in their ears rather than listen to them. Yes, yes.
I think maybe too, along that same kind of line, if you can pick a topic that lends itself to being the 18-minute TED type of speech, if you can pinpoint or direct your speakers to pick something simple to talk about, because I think what we see in a lot of these conferences and these hour-long or presentations is they try and cover this breadth of, they're trying to boil the ocean with an hour, and it's like if you can steer them and say, okay, this is specifically what we want you to talk about, you'll be leaps and bounds ahead of the game, and you don't have to have somebody that sets the world on fire with a presentation when you give them 3 bullet points to talk about.
And I think you're right. What was your name? Logan had a great point, and that was too many speakers try to cram too much stuff in there. If they have, be it 20 minutes or even 90 minutes, I like this term, so they try to boil the ocean with everything that they can throw in there. And the fact is that goes back to your question before about working with the speakers in advance and getting them on board for what it is you want them to cover and working with them. That combination really will help, steer that tone. Now, it's interesting, as we've done this, a lot of the talk comes back to who are your speakers. The questions have led back. Yes, Mike.
I just want to make the point that there's two really good examples right here in this room. This is an event, right?
This is an event.
One example is that we're recording your presentation, obviously, right? Interruptions, but if we were to just take that video and just store it away in Google Plus and let it die there, then we wouldn't let that conversation carry on. So one of the things that we have to take the responsibility to do is to take that content and then post it on our website, share it on Facebook, and make it live. And our event here can become an industry event for product marketing and product management, as it has whenever John gave his talk about drug dealers, lessons learned from drug dealers. And I don't know how many hits he got off of that, but it didn't just live so that the people that were here. But it wasn't just the people who were at this event that heard about it that went back to watch it. It spread to all the other product management people around the world. And so we were able to reach out into the product marketing and product management community well beyond anything that you could fit into a room. And that's one of the strengths of taking the content, putting on SlideShare, putting it into YouTube or wherever it's going to live, and allowing to give it a place where it's visible and people can share it. And then you can actually do become more of an industry event that people want to go to rather than just something that happened on Saturday.
And Mike's point, for those of you who are on Google Plus, was that it's the marketer and the company's responsibility to take this information that's recorded on video or slides or audio or however you captured it and make sure that you're pushing it out there to make the event go bigger than just the room. Because if you just stream it on Google Plus and let it be stored somewhere and never tell anybody where it is, then nobody can ever watch it. So it's the event's responsibility to think big and continue to push that. Yes, yes.
I think another thing that you can do is if you have a good, I think it's important to think about who's your master of ceremony process. Because sometimes even if the speakers are not like as expected, you need to tell us, to be honest. But if you have someone that can kind of make sure that there is like normal transitions between speakers and then introduce the speakers, keep it like informative, and sometimes even like interfere and ask questions, or interfere at the end and ask the question saying, hey, we've got 2 minutes left, so you're not like being derailed. I think the whole role of master of ceremony, I think, is a critical one that people, I think, underestimate.
And I think at users conferences, when you go to big like association or industry mega conferences, I think you see that. His point was, oftentimes companies fail to have the right master of ceremonies to really guide everybody through. And I think you're right. I think that continuity of having the right person who can come up and sort of take control of the stage, take ownership, introduce the speakers. When the speaker says, does anybody have any questions? If you hear crickets, that can hurt everything, even if the speaker was great. And that's why a good master of ceremonies will have a couple of questions on the side where he'll get questions from people on cards. And when the speaker says, is there any questions, if it's just like, what will happen is that master of ceremonies will say, well, we have a few questions that came in on Twitter or that came in from the audience, and keep that thing going. And if a speaker starts to go long, have you ever had that happen at your conference? Anybody ever have, your CEO, scheduled for a 30-minute talk and go like 90 minutes? That can ruin your conference if your speakers go long. And that's why a nice master of ceremonies, especially maybe someone from outside your company who isn't going to get fired for looking at the CEO and sort of coming onto the stage. If you're a VP of marketing and cuts them off, you may be looking for a new VP of marketing the next week. But if you have an outside industry or professional master of ceremonies, they can kind of give that signal that you're done and get you back on track. So I think that is a good point. Yeah, question right here.
So I've got a question about the practical reality of trying to influence your user conference when you don't necessarily own it. So when the company may have some influence on you should have this guy or that guy. But there's going to be some level of, I know they're filling slots.
Yep.
And I have to hope that they will coach them and do all that kind of stuff. If there was a beachhead that I wanted to throw myself on and say, we have to do this 1 or 2 things to say, how do we get that experience that you were talking about? If you see anything good in that realm that someone who doesn't own it could champion and try to.
So his question is that he's not the person who makes the decision as a product marketer on who's going to be doing these things and planning a conference. How can he still have an influence on it. The first thing is just be the person who leads the dialogue, gets people talking about it all year long. This isn't something, lots of times a month before the conference, somebody will say, oh, we should hire, whoever to come and be our keynote speaker. Well, that decision might have been made 6 or 8 months ago. So starting early, getting those conversations going, asking people, what is the purpose of the conference? Anytime somebody says, oh, we're going to use so-and-so, what is the purpose of the conference? Does that match back? You may not be able to influence, but you may be able to derail some things that aren't the right thing. And then also, I think the most important thing is your opening and your closing of your conference. And too many people start by coming up saying, thank you, we appreciate that you're all here today. We have some housekeeping things that we're going to do. Have a creative opening and closing, because even if someone isn't the decision maker, you can influence a good idea, because then that person can take ownership of it, and if it goes well, they're the hero. If it goes bad, they can say, hey, it's his idea. Yes?
The other thing that I would add is the most successful user conferences that I've helped plan are not the ones where we're focused on presenting a lot of information to our customers. It's where we're focused on getting the customers talking to each other. And I think as product managers, that's something that we can really influence, is looking for ways to create those connections between customers, either in sessions or outside of sessions, getting them talking to each other, facilitating building that community, because they can get the content from you a variety of ways, but they can't talk to somebody else who's walking in their shoes at any other place but your user conference.
Absolutely, and meeting the peers is so important. That's why I talked about the hallway conversations being so important in that area, that if you can really, force it. One of the things, I spoke at a conference last year, and they've invited me back this year, and I'm actually going to be the MC this time. And what they're doing is, instead of doing a dinner for everybody on the opening night, they are going to do an opening reception, and all their salespeople are taking their own clients out to dinner. Instead of doing a mass dinner for 400 people, they're letting the salespeople take out groups of 20 or 30 or however many they have, and actually it's probably going to be cheaper, because it's probably cheaper to take groups of 20 to a variety of local restaurants around the city than it is to plan a dinner for 400. And that allows the sales manager or the salesperson to introduce his clients to each other, because the more they know each other and like each other, the less likely someone's going to spin off to a competitor. They all become part of a family, and so that's right. You can orchestrate that. The gentleman in the blue shirt had his hand up for a long time.
I had a question for you. Are you seeing different types of meeting designs based on the type of meetings? For example, the 18-minute rule works great because it's designed to get people to go wide on a zillion different topics. You're not going deep on a certain set of topics. So does that work for those kind of conferences? Do user groups have a certain style build?
I think most conferences still fit that cookie cutter mold of keynote, breakout, lunch, breakout, keynote, happy hour. But I don't think there's a lot of different stuff that we can do, because the facilities we have to use to bring in hundreds of people, we have to have hotel rooms. So you can't say, oh, we're going to have this users conference out in the field in Lubbock, because where are you going to sleep 1,000 people in a field outside of Lubbock? So no one wants to come to a users conference and pitch a tent. So we still need to have it at nice hotels, but it's creating the things like some of the offsites. I'm seeing more and more people do offsites that are getting more and more creative. It was a large 3,000 person conference, so they had the budget to do this, but they actually hired a very well-known band from the 70s and the 80s, today they have, but they blocked off the downtown Old Town street in the community they were in. And it was the best party I'd ever been to. They had 3,000 people, they had Kool and the Gang playing, and you wouldn't think, wow, Kool and the Gang. But it was the greatest party I've ever seen a conference do, because of the way they did it. And all the restaurants that made up this Old Town block, would be like 6th Street here, all of the restaurants were the caterers. So we went to stations to get food outside of all of these restaurants. And so there's certain things you can't change, but where you can find that unique thing, everybody will be talking about it, whether it's the way you do an opening session. I went to one event, they did a flash mob for their opening, and they put in hours. It wasn't like, hey, let's wing it and everybody get up and do this. They had their entire board and people, the whole front 4 tables, stood up and started doing these choreographed dance. And it was well done, and it was something unexpected. And everybody talked about it for 3 days, because it wasn't just a thing they did to, let's do it because it's cool. They put in the time to make sure that it was really well done. Somebody else? A couple things.
I mean, I've seen you doing it, but I mean, what do you think of the one trade secret when it comes to getting people energized guys and exciting stuff in the conference.
So he just asked me to give my trade secret. I appreciate that. Because we're only streaming to Google. And what, 1 or 2 people in the United States now look at Google and 3 or 4 around the world? So, you know, I think the biggest thing is making it easy for people to connect. So without going into sort of, you know, my whole program, you know, that you can find at conferencecatalyst.com. Without going into that. Go ahead. Borderline. No, seriously. The big thing is getting people to take ownership of saying hello to other people. And I had a large company call me who saw me do a program. And they said, we really liked it, so we basically stole it. They go, we basically did everything you did at our conference. We had our director of marketing say all the same types of things you said, and it was lame. He was like, go meet 3 people at Trade. And like people were like, yeah, they're on the black list. And he said, why did it work? And I said, because I made it about the people. It wasn't a gimmick. I really get the people engaged, and I make introverts take ownership of the fact that introverts are better at networking. And so when the introverts feel empowered to go talk to people, the energy level at your conference is going to go through the roof.
But there's still one thing that I've seen you doing, and I haven't seen anybody else doing, but it's the fact that whatever is your speech, at the end of the day, you get to do the first 10 minutes of the conference. If you keep up the conference, everybody in the room will stand up, shake hands, and exchange and get to know someone that they didn't know before. And I mean, I've never been into what I'm sitting, but the energy that it just starts to bring. And then after the whole thing about going to, during the breaks, you get to meet one more person.
Right.
To the point where we had people telling us, like, kind of like put that into our brain, and we felt kind of bad looking at our phones. But the fact of getting everybody to stand up and shake hands at the beginning, I think is the thing that really made the whole difference.
I think it's about creating a culture around making this a memorable event for everybody. Human beings, we're experiential by nature. That's how we learn, it's how we do, it's how we relate. And so the old cliche of people do business with people they know, like, and trust. So that's, everybody goes, oh yeah, we've all heard that before, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. Well, something's happened in the last 2 years, 3 years, and that is the definition of the word know, K-N-O-W, has thoroughly been changed. It's been thrown out, because now we all think we know everybody else, because I know Brian, I follow him on Twitter. It's only the second time I've ever been in the same room with him, but I read all this stuff on Twitter. So, oh, we're buddies now. You know, I'm expecting to be godfather when he has a child someday, because I follow him on Twitter. So the problem is because we all think we instantly know everybody. The mistake we make is we just move forward that I know everybody. But we never get to like and trust. And so we're almost leaving it behind like it doesn't matter. And you have to get that thing where you really kind of like people. And like is a feeling. I can't make you like me. Hi, like me. You know, I can say that on Facebook. Would you please go like me? But I can't make you have that feeling about me. And as humans, we're experiential. And so I think it's creating that culture where people say, this can be the best event we've been to, but to do so, I have to take ownership of it as an individual in the chair. But the organizer has to set the groundwork for that to really work. Yes, in fact.
I guess you talk a lot about interpersonal and why are your thoughts about technology and
great question.
Beyond Twitter, apps and gamification, there's a lot of stuff.
Fantastic question. He says, I talk a lot about networking, like human-to-human contact and networking. So the question was, how do you feel about apps and technology? I feel great about it. I like technology. I think technology makes it easier for us to keep in contact. I mean, I'm 45 years old. I just told the world that. I'm 45 years old. And when I left college, I lost most of the people who weren't my best friends, who I didn't make a daily or weekly thing to call them. There was no email, there were no cell phones. To call them, I actually had to be in my office or at my house, and I was a salesperson. I spent most of my days in the early part of my career in a car. So I lost touch with a lot of people. Plus I moved, 400 miles away and then 1,500 miles away after that. I lost touch with people. So now we have the technology, so when we meet people, we keep in touch. The problem is people are using it as a crutch. They're meeting, they're having a 2-second conversation at a conference, they're trading business cards, they're going back sending a LinkedIn request, and they're saying, I know them. And what's happening is a lot of our social media and our mobile tools, a lot of them are becoming phone books. None of you would go to Los Angeles, go around to every city in LA County, get the phone book, fly back to Austin and tell people, I've got 10 million people in my network in Los Angeles because I could call any one of them right now. I've got their phone number. That's not networking, that's phone books stacked up really high with LA County. So we have to have sort of that getting beyond, hi, how you doing, here's my business card. So it's like peeling an onion, and getting people to do that at a conference is hard because we're not used to doing it. A lot of people are introverts, they don't want to do it. But when they do it, They walk away saying, this is the best conference I've been to. They go back, they tell everybody in their company, they come back the next year and they bring people with them, and it grows. And the best example I can give all of you is South by Southwest. I mean, we can say the good, the bad, and the ugly about what's happened to it over the past 5 years. But when I went to Interactive the first time, there might have been 3,000 people. Last year there were 18,000 people. That didn't happen because, people just said hello. They had an experience and they shared it. And then more people wanted to come and people continue to come back. So I think that can be created, in a users conference thing. So as we're really wrapping up time here, we're 1 minute over, so I'm going to take this down. My advice, if your company has a users conference and you want it to be more of an industry happening and not just sort of a check the box, someone from the company had better go, because we spend a lot of money with them, so people are fighting not to go. If you want it to be the thing where people are clamoring to go, you have to take risks. And you have to take risks at the very early stages. And it's not just about the networking, it's not just about the speakers, it's not just about, are you going to have chicken or steak? Everybody has to ask the question, why are we making this decision? And does it lead back to our purpose? And I think that purpose is about the people whose butts are in the chairs, not about the salespeople getting to sell them. Thank you very much. It's been a lot of fun. I brought prizes for people who ask questions and forgot to give them out. So if you legitimately asked a question, I've got 8 books. I've got the ABCs of conferences and the ABCs of networking. Please come and grab a book. I think about 8 or 9 people ask questions. Bertrand and Mike, you're not eligible because you're my friends. And Elizabeth, you're not available either. Come and grab a book. And to those of you who are watching on Google+, thank you very much. I hope this was worth your time.